Welcome to the Politicrat. I'm Omar Moore. It is Monday, August the 17th, 2020.
Mr. President, after 3.5 years, you regretted all the lying you've done to the American people.
All the what?
All the lying, all the dishonesties.
That who's done?
You have done. Tens of
Go ahead,
thousands.
please. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask about the payroll tax.
Oh dear. That was S.V. Darte, the Huffington Post reporter, last week, who asked Donald Trump a question that in 4+ years, if you look back to 2015 when Donald Trump first ran for president, no reporter had asked Donald Trump to his face, "Do you regret all the lying that you have done?" And I just want to thank S.V. Darte of the Huffington Post for asking that question in the White House press briefing room last Thursday. A lot of people were very happy that finally a reporter did that. And they were very happy that S.V. Darte asked that question of Donald Trump. And you heard what Donald Trump had to say. Absolutely nothing in terms of answering the question. That was a moment that was damning. And that was a moment that crystallized and has crystallizes these last 3.5 years plus. Donald Trump has told over 21,000 lies while he's been in the White House for these last 3.5+ years. And it was very telling that one reporter got him to be silent. And that is not easy to do when you're talking about Donald J. Trump. I play that clip to remind people that Donald Trump is a pathological liar. To remind people that if they do their jobs and do them well, that they will in all likelihood succeed and succeed well. Today's focus is going to be on a couple of things. Registering to vote and voting information for 4 states as we close out the 50 states. And I'll also do Washington, D.C. as well. And just to focus on what you should be approaching now and what your mindset should be when it comes to voting. And also a look at the Democratic National Committee's platform for the convention, which begins tonight, of course, virtually, with the 2 keynote speakers of the night. First, Senator Bernie Sanders, and then, to close out the night, First Lady Michelle Obama. John Kasich, the Republican, will also be speaking, among others, on this first night of the convention. There is also expected to be an endorsement sometime today, according to reports, that another prominent Republican, no longer in Congress, will be endorsing Joe Biden. Now, we'll see if that happens tonight at the convention, virtually, obviously, because it's all virtual. The first virtual convention in the history of this country. Or we will see if during the day, in the run-up to the start of the nighttime events, if there will be an announcement of who this prominent former Republican congressman is. There have been rumors flying all over Twitter over the last 24 hours. So all of that is coming up next.
Mr. President, after 3.5 years, you regretted all the lying you've done to the American people.
All the what?
All the lying, all the dishonesties.
And who's done?
You have done. Tens of
Go ahead,
thousands.
please. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask about the payroll tax.
After 3.5 years.
Oh, my goodness me. Oh, the payroll tax. I'll go to a question that... Thank you, by the way, SV Date, again, for asking that question last week. SV Date, D-A-T-E is the last name there. SV Date is on Twitter. I believe that is his Twitter handle, SV Date. Please follow him and thank him for asking the question that you just heard him ask. Oh, Mr. President, do you regret all the lying that you've done to the American people? That's just great. That question should have been asked 5 years ago, 25 years ago, quite frankly, 30 years ago. Instead of the news media celebrating this guy who was a racist, misogynistic pig, they should have been asking that question. Maybe this guy would not have got to where he's got to in this world. And of course, white men are enabled in this way because the system is built for them and by them. So, of course, right? And then if you've got a rich white man or a supposedly rich white man, this is how the system enables them. And you skate all the way through. You're unqualified, you've bankrupted your businesses and your casinos, and you've ripped people off. And Deutsche Bank still gives you $1 billion loan or whatever. And the media calls you the Donald, and it's time that we stop this clown. And I'm going to spend a few minutes here talking about this before I get into for the final 4 states and D.C., and also look at the Democratic convention platform, a little bit of it, as we get to tonight, day one, night number 1 of what will be an historic convention, the first ever to be virtual. I just want to say a few things here, and I'm going to be as concise as I can be. Our mission right now, if we choose to accept it, is not an impossible mission at all. Our mission now, if we choose to accept it, is to vote early. Vote early. Preferably in person, preferably on the first day of early voting. That is our mission. Our mission is not the polls. Our mission is not to get worried about a poll in August. That is a national poll. That is a poll that means absolutely nothing. In the United States of America, the general election, the presidential election, is not decided nationally. The presidential election is decided in the Electoral College, state by state. So a poll that CNN does that shows the race tightening between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, a national poll, it means absolutely nothing. And even if it were a state poll, it would mean absolutely nothing. It's August. And even if the poll was done on November the 1st, it means absolutely nothing. It's a poll with a small sample size of people with a margin of error, which means it could go either way depending on the margin of error, which means that you do not take these polls as any kind of factor or indicator. As I always say to you and have said to you for a long time here on this podcast, ignore the polls that show Joe Biden up by 10 in these states, by 4, by 2, and ignore the ones that show him trailing by 10 or 4 or 2. If a poll says Donald Trump is up by 10, I wouldn't pay any attention to it. If a poll said that Donald Trump was down by 10, I wouldn't pay any attention to it. What I would say to you is, if you are a voter and you want to make sure that there is no more Donald Trump in the White House, assume that Donald Trump is ahead. That's all I'll say. Assume that he's leading. Forget the polls. Just assume that he's leading and assume that voters are going to vote for him. And assume that all of these undecided voters, who the hell would be undecided in March or in August or in any month this year about Donald Trump and Joe Biden? Who would be undecided about that? Well, in my view, the undecided voters are Trump voters. Assume that. Assume it. Which means that you have to think right now that you've got work to do. And that means vote early. And that means make sure you tell your friends and family to vote early. You may have to talk to them for 5 minutes. You may have to try to shake them out of that habit. Oh, well, I'll just wait until the mail-in ballot comes to me. No. You need to tell your friend or your family member, no, do not wait until the ballot comes. Ask for the ballot now. Tell them to go to their local county board of elections office. In some states, it's called the municipal clerk's office. In other states, it's called the sheriff's office. In other states, it's called the elections office. There's all kinds of names for these local board offices. These are places in your county. So whatever your county is or your city is, where you live, there is a board of elections or some kind of elections office there. And that's where you will either vote, drop off your ballot in the early voting phase, or that's the place where they can tell you, okay, your precinct of voting is here or wherever it might be, one place where you vote. But right now is the time you need to be voting. If you are in a voting early state, a state that does early voting, and when that first day of early voting comes, you need to be early voting on that first day. Don't wait till September if you are in a state that does early voting in this month of August. Don't wait until October if you are in a state such as Minnesota that does early voting in September. And don't wait until November 3rd to vote if you are in a state that does early voting in October, and pretty much all of them do. The order of the day here is being proactive. And I'm not joking when I say this. You need to be asking for a ballot now. Even though maybe your early voting state does not early vote until October. You need to get this mail-in ballot now. If you're going to vote by mail, you need to request that ballot now. And you can do that by either sending an email to them to request it. So I believe in some states you can do that. Sending a piece of mail to them by the conventional mail. I would not recommend it. I would not recommend you sending mail through the post office at the moment. It's just going to take a long time to get there. The postal office is an excellent service, but it is what Louis DeJoy, the Postmaster General, has been doing to slow it down and destroy it. That is not good. So you have to work around these things. And one way to do that is to either be there in person at your local county board of elections office, or if you have to go to the Secretary of State's office, you go there in person. But preferably your local county board of elections, because you can go to either one of those, but preferably the local one. The point is that you have to go in person, be proactive, and say, I would like my early voting ballot. I would like my vote by mail ballot, please. And then that way you can register and fill out and sign, apply for this ballot. You can do it right there and then, in person. And then when you get the ballot, you can, if they give it to you, if they have them ready, you can then go ahead and fill it out, whether it's in person there or somewhere else at home, and then come right back and just drop it off to them. That way you know they've received it. That way you know there's no delay. I am going to, again, in these next few weeks, point out where all the early voting states are on the first day of those early votes. I'm going to be doing that. And I'm going to put a chart together in the next few days where you're going to see every single place where you can early vote, what the ID requirements might be like, or at least links to those, so that everybody who wants to, who is going to be voting, can see that. One of the things I would also ask you to do, as well as being proactive by voting on the first day of early voting in your state, preferably in person, if not in person, by mail or by drop box. You can drop your ballot off in a drop box. And apart from going to the office in your local board of elections and actually ask them for a ballot early, ask them for that. One of the things I would suggest to you to do is to offer to drive your friends and family to these boards of election places to get their ballots or drop them off to your family member particularly. If they're elderly, I would urge you to do that. I would urge you to spread the message to your family and friends and tell them that they need to vote early and preferably in person if they can in this pandemic. And also on the first day of early voting. Because that's really when this election is going to be won. This election is going to be won by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in the early voting period. That's what I am saying to you. Because what's going to happen is you will find a lot of Republicans turning out on November 3rd. So I honestly think that the Democratic Party and anybody who's going to be voting Democratic, and not just at the top of the ticket, vote all the way down ticket Democratic. All of those races you have in your city and state, you should be voting Democratic on. Governors, senators, House members, dog catcher, school board, everybody, Democratic. So I would urge you not to waste any time. You're going to have a convention starting tonight. I urge you to do this. The polls are going to tighten. I've said that all the time. But I honestly think even without these polls, you've just got to focus on voting. Cut out the noise. Cut out the social media. Look, I use Twitter. I'm on Twitter at the Popcorn REEL. But it is important to spread facts, to spread official information from these Secretary of State or local county board of election websites. Information is power. And there is sadly a lot of disinformation and false information flying around the internet. And as I remind people, if you are voting in this general election, you want to make sure that you consult one of two websites. The Secretary of State website in your state, and or your local county board of elections website. And as I've said over and over, in different states, the Board of Elections is called something different. Some states call it the municipal clerk's office. Some states call it, the sheriff's office, the county sheriff's office. Some call it the town. I mean, there's so many different names. But basically what you need to do is make sure you consult the website of your local elections board. And it's easy to find. And the easy way to find it is by going first to your Secretary of State's website. And somewhere on that website, there will be something that says, find your local polling place or find your local county clerk. And you'll be able to find that person or that office and that phone number. This is in our hands. This election is in our hands. It is up to us. I can tell you for a fact, more people are going to vote this time around than they did last time. Why? Last time, there was very little enthusiasm on the Democratic side. Very little. People had had 8 years of Barack Obama, and they just took it for granted that Hillary Clinton was going to just continue that. And that's in fact how Hillary Clinton ran her campaign. But she didn't have enough of a clearly defined message. And that was not her fault. That was her campaign's fault. Her strategists absolutely screwed her over for the second time. 2008, same thing. Bad strategists, terrible advice. It's as if they sabotaged her twice. Not to mention everything else that happened in 2016 with Republicans suppressing the vote, with the Russia situation, all of that. And the misogyny as well, that played a role to a degree as well. And then the media just loving Donald Trump and giving him $5 billion of free airtime. They have enabled him all the way through, and they continue to. Even as they attack him, they continue to enable him. They do not report on anything until and unless Donald Trump's name is connected to it. That's what the corporate news media does. So we know whose side they're on. As much as they bash him, as long as you put his name in the headlines, he has the publicity. Remember what P.T. Barnum said? Remember what he said? There's no such thing as bad publicity. Just make sure you get my name right. There's no such thing as bad publicity. Just make sure you spell my name right. P.T. Barnum. And that's who Donald Trump is. And he's becoming much more wicked, although P.T. Barnum was awful. You read the history of him. And by the way, there was a movie called The Greatest Show on Earth with Hugh Jackman that came out a few years ago, 2017 or 18. One of the most dishonest portrayals of P.T. Barnum I've ever seen. It was horrible. And I wrote about it, as did others, and I did a whole thing on that. Maybe I'll include a link to that in the notes for this episode. But my whole point is that this election is down to us, to you, to me, to us, to your friends, to your family. This election is too important to procrastinate about. It is either a choice of having a country or having a dictatorship permanently. You've got to figure out what you'd prefer. If you'd prefer a dictatorship, then you know what you're going to do and who you're going to vote for. But if you'd prefer a country where people can live and a country where we can actually try to change it and make it a better place to live in for everybody, where you will have generations yet unborn trying to make this country a better place, then you know you have to vote for that country. And you can only vote for that country by voting for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. This level of enthusiasm now must be activated in terms of voting, because voter turnout is going to decide this election. If the Democratic Party, never mind this convention, but if the Democratic Party can turn out its voting base, this election is game over. It is absolutely a wrap. And you will see Joe Biden and Kamala Harris put their hands on the Bible on January 20th, 2021. Why do I say that? Because the Democratic voting base is larger than the Republican voting base. And it has been for years. For years. This is why the Republicans continue to try to suppress the votes. This is why they do this. More people vote Democratic than they do Republican in this country. And it's been like that for years. For years. Hillary Clinton won more popular votes than Donald Trump did. Al Gore won more popular votes than George W. Bush did. There are far more Democratic voters, people who are registered with the Democratic Party to vote, than there are Republicans registered with the Republican Party to vote. I'm telling you, there are far more voters registered with the Democrats than with the Republicans. And this is why the Republicans continue to cheat. This is why Donald Trump is cheating and committing crimes in front of you. Our response must be to vote. After everything that we've gone through this year, our response must be to vote. And vote early. If you can, I would urge you to vote in person. I really would urge you to do that. Voting in person. Gloves, mask. It really is the best way. Or dropping off your ballot at a drop box. Or actually dropping off your ballot in person at the local board of elections or at your precinct. Preferably your local board of elections if you're early voting. Unless there's an early voting precinct that you know you can go to. But we've got this, people. We have this election in our hands. And the only thing that can really get in the way of that is us. Is us. Which means we've got a lot of damn power. All the fear, all the divisions. Oh, the polls are tightening. Ooh, some celebrity on Twitter last night. Oh, this is absolutely terrifying. Oh, go home. Oh, please, shut up. You don't even know what this is. This ain't terrifying. This is about us getting off our asses and getting to the polls. This is about us strategizing now, telling our family, telling our friends, texting our friends, having Zoom conversations, having Instagram chats, having live feeds, having FaceTime, having Twitter chats, having Instagram chats, having Periscope chats, having all of these chats, Facebook, whomever. And tell your followers or your friends online to get out there and vote early. Everybody who's listening to me right now, and everybody who's listening to me right now who has a social media account, who has a cell phone, can tell people and must tell people to vote early. I don't care who they are. I'm not even telling you to tell them to vote Biden-Harris. Optimally, if you can do that and feel safe and comfortable doing that, then you do what you feel is necessary to convey that to them, that they should vote and must vote Biden-Harris. And try to explain why if they ask you why. Within 5 minutes or less. If you can't convince them, you move on. But my whole point is you need to be telling people that you know to vote early. Vote early. I'm serious. Vote early. You need to tell people that. That's what you should be doing. If you've got a cell phone, you can text. Text somebody. Text people you know. Text your whole address book. Vote early. Tell them. If you've got Twitter, go on Twitter. Tweet people. Tell them to vote early. If you've got Instagram, go on Instagram. Have a picture, have a video. Tell people to vote early. Facebook, the same thing. TikTok, the same thing. All of these platforms we've got at our disposal. You tell people you know, make a phone call to your family, friends, whomever, relatives rather, whomever. Zoom chats. Tell people you've got all this technology at your disposal. This is about us, not about some poll, not about someone on Twitter, not about some crazy person screaming about, oh, this is terrifying. This is absolutely terrifying. You know what is terrifying? Is when people sit around talking about how terrifying things are and then they don't get off their ass and vote. That's what is terrifying. You know the phrase. We have seen the enemy. And the enemy is us. So what do you do about that enemy? You vote. And you vote early. Do not give yourself an excuse to sit at home talking about how terrifying things are. And your ass isn't out there voting. And your ass isn't out there educating people. And your ass isn't out there telling people that they must get out and vote early, preferably in person. Stop terrifying and scaring people. And if I sound scary to someone listening to this, I am trying to educate you. And I know that sounds arrogant and it sounds like whatever it sounds like. But it sounds a whole lot better than 4 more years of a tyrant and a dictator in the United States doing all the damage that he has done. With over 171,000 people dead from coronavirus. Whatever I say and however I sound to you is surely much better than what Donald Trump has done in these last 3.5+ years. Vote early. Thank you. Welcome back. And so with that, it's time to go on to these 4 states that I'm going to go through here before getting to the Democratic Party platform that I'll talk a little bit about on this first day of the convention, which starts tonight, the virtual convention, and we'll get to that in just a few minutes. First of all, we go to voting, and we start with Washington State. Now, Washington State is a vote-by-mail state for the most part. I think they do 2 things. They go with vote-by-mail, and they also sometimes do, well, put it this way, I'll keep it simple, and I'll just tell you that there is vote-by-mail in Washington. And Washington State's website, unfortunately, which is really strange about this. I am wrong. They have just done this now, thank God. This website had been down for a long time, and maybe the timing was perfect. They waited for me. Oh, I know. Oh, dearie. Well, this is really good. The timing of this is perfect, because that means now that I can tell you about Washington State. And what you need to do is go to SOS, Save Our Souls. That's sos.wa.gov/elections. That's where you need to go. And thank goodness this website is up. I'm so pleased about this, because I was bracing for this site not to work, because for a number of hours it had been down and the server had not been responding. So I am delighted that it's here and it's up. You go to sos.wa.gov/elections. That brings you to the elections page, and voila. You will see a number of different headings along the top. It says voters, candidates, and it goes across the top. And then you will see something on the right-hand side that says Vote WA, register to vote. So if you need to register to vote and you've never done that before in Washington State, and you are a Washington State resident who would like to vote for the first time, then you click on Vote WA, register to vote, and that will bring you to register to vote, my voting information. And then you just type your name in and date of birth, and you submit it, and you go from there. And that will also be able to tell you if you're checking your voter registration, if you're still in the rolls, on the voting rolls, you can also go to that as well, and that will send you to that as well. So that is that. Beneath that page, beneath that Vote WA on the sos.wa.gov/elections page I told you to go to, if you are in Washington State, you will scroll down underneath that green Vote WA button that says register to vote, and you will see state dates and deadlines. And what it will say is on October the 16th in Washington State, early voting starts. Now, that's kind of late, considering all we know. I'm just telling you what the information is, though. October the 16th is the first day of early voting for the November 3rd general election. And by the way, that early voting extends through election day itself. So once October the 16th starts, or rather, once it arrives, you can vote early in Washington State. And it says that ballots are mailed out and accessible voting units are available at voting centers. Now, if I were you in Washington State, I would call the Secretary of State's office or your local Board of Elections and ask them if you can go in person and pick up a ballot. Just say, do you have any ballots ready now? Will you have them ready before October 16th? I would like to pick one up. Or I would just do one better and go down to the local Board of Elections office and ask them. Or the Secretary of State's office and ask them. The Secretary of State's office, by the way, is in Olympia, Washington. There's phone numbers, there's an email address. The phone number, there's one phone number there, 306-902-4151. And the email address there is Secretary of State at sos.wa.gov. There's so many. This is a good website, this one. sos.wa.gov/elections. Also on that same page that I just read out to you, you will note at the top it says the Elections Division is open for curbside service. Please call 360-902-4180 for assistance Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Pacific to 5 p.m. Pacific. Keep that in mind. On that same page, you'll see election results for 2020. On that same page, you can scroll down and you see its current information for the August primary. You can register in person. You can learn about vote by mail. You can learn a whole lot more. It's really good. And the great thing is that if you click on register in person, it's just great. County elections departments in Washington State. And there's a map of the whole state. You can look up your county. If you want to find out, when I keep talking about Board of Elections and County Board of Elections, every website in these Secretary of States for around the country, they have either a map or a lookup of every county in the state. So if you're in Washington State, voila. All you have to do is go to sos.wa.gov/elections, scroll down on that homepage to where it says register in person. That's underneath where it says election results. On that left-hand side, you scroll down, boom, there's a photo, and it says register in person underneath. You click on that, and you'll come to this map of all these counties. And you just click on the county to find out which county you're in. And it gives you the phone number, it gives you the office hours, it gives you the physical address, it gives you fax numbers even, email addresses, and the website for the county. Like I say, every one of these counties has a website. Beautiful. This is what I'm trying to tell you. You have to do this. This is the extra bit of work you have to do. And then you can click on that website. It even tells you the type of ballot that your county has for you so that you know in advance, okay, I'm going to have to fill in a box. If you are in Okanogan County, is that how you pronounce it, Washington? Okanogan County. If you're in Okanogan County, you will know that your ballot this November is going to be a fill-in-the-box type of ballot. So you'll be filling in a box on a sheet of paper for your ballot. And it's just great. And you click on the county's website and boom, all the information. Washington State's website's terrific. Early voting begins October 16th in Washington State. And you can find out everything else you need to find out about Washington State, about voting and the voters. And it's just terrific. Register to vote. You can do that. Online voter registration. There's 3 ways to register to vote. They talk about felons being able to vote. There's voter registration forms. There's everything here. Find your county elections department. See, that's the same thing as the County Board of Elections. That's the same thing as the municipal office. It's the same thing. They're all the same thing. They just call them different names in every state. So it's just great. This is really good. Then you've got election dates and deadlines, as I've said. I mean, this is just great. If you want to, I love this. I love it. If you want to register to vote, the deadline to register to vote for online and mail registrations must be 8 days before Election Day. That's October the 26th. And in some cases in Washington State, you can actually register to vote in person during business hours and at any time before 8 p.m. on Election Day. So if you're registering to vote in person, you can vote and register to vote on the same day, no later than 8 p.m. on November 3rd. I would not wait till November 3rd, though. I would be making sure that I do my online or mail voter registration right now in August. This is just beautiful. I love this site. Washington State, I bow to you. You are one of the top 5 or 6 websites. And I'm going to be putting a ranking together. Thank you so much for doing this. This website is one of the very best. And I know I've said that about a number of sites. But this one is really good.
In magical thinking again. And what I mean by that is you need to do the tests and the gowns and masks and all of the other stuff. He has not done that. And now I think we're in grave danger. I have to tell you both. I think that we are seeing the start of a botched reopening. I think that the president appears to be engaging in magical thinking again. And what I mean by that is, a couple months ago he said, one day it's just going to magically disappear. It seems as if he may be recklessly rolling the dice, hoping that he can goose the economy just enough in the third quarter of this year to enhance his reelection prospects, hoping that he can divert the blame for the extra tens of thousands of Americans who the doctors tell us will die as a result of this, and blame it on the Chinese or former President Obama or whoever, instead of doing what a president needs to do. First of all,
and that is Al Gore. That was Al Gore, the former vice president of this country, on May the 7th, 2020, no less, speaking to Anderson Cooper and Dr. Sanjay Gupta during one of their coronavirus town halls. And what I take away from that, the quote, I think we are in grave danger. I think we are seeing the start of a botched reopening. Now, this was more than 3 months ago that Al Gore said that. And in those last 3+ months, since then, we now have a total. Now, I don't know what the total was on May 7th of people who have died from the coronavirus. I don't remember here in the U.S. But now that total is up to 171,000 people as I record this. Dead from coronavirus. A botched reopening, and that's exactly what has happened. There's no question about it. Al Gore is correct. A botched reopening. That is exactly what has happened here. All these governors were in a hurry, and now look at what it has cost us as a nation. That was 3.5 months ago. Three and a half months ago. And this is the thing that, have we learned anything? Al Gore warned us 3.5 months ago. And nobody really has listened. Al Gore has warned us. Before I get back to these states, Al Gore warned us. He wasn't the only one. Here's what Al Gore had to say just yesterday on Anderson Cooper, a special edition of that program, Sunday, August the 16th of this year. Here's what Al Gore had to say about Donald Trump just yesterday.
But when they start tinkering with the voting process and try to take away from the American people their right to give their consent in an honest and open way, that is a direct assault on the idea of the United States of America. And I think it's a criminal conspiracy to subvert the election for partisan purposes. Now, whether there's anybody that has enough standing to bring that emergency injunction in court, you'll have to go to someone who knows the law on that. But I know that the Congress can take action immediately next week, and thanks to Nancy Pelosi for calling the House back in, if enough Republicans listen to their constituents, who I know I'm hearing from a lot of Republicans who are outraged by this. And if they listen to them, they're not going to go along with President Trump on this.
You really think this is a criminal conspiracy?
Well, I think that it is. I'm not a lawyer, and I haven't researched the criminal law. But this is. There's no question in my mind that this big contributor for Donald Trump, who was put in charge of the Postal Service just before the election, and then had a Friday night massacre to get rid of a couple of dozen top people in order to put more henchmen in there, and then they start taking the mailboxes away, and they start disassembling some of the mail sorting machines, and they come up with these excuses, and they're tiptoeing around it and trying to dance as fast as they can. But people see through it. They know this is exactly the kind of stunt that Donald J. Trump would try to pull when he is feeling desperate. He's afraid that the majority of the American people have made up their minds that he is not fit to be president of the United States. He's afraid that there's going to be a vote against him. And so he is now trying to subvert the vote.
And that's exactly right. Al Gore yesterday and Al Gore 3.5 months ago. And that's exactly what Donald Trump is doing. He's trying to subvert the vote. He is afraid. So why are celebrities in Hollywood talking about how terrifying things are with a stinking poll that means nothing? Why is that? I'm not going to mention the person's name. Why is that person, that Hollywood celeb who went on Twitter last night and said, "Oh, this is absolutely terrifying"? Give me a break, folks. Come on now. Donald Trump is terrified. As Al Gore just said, why do you think he's doing all the things he's doing? He's got Louis DeJoy, who Al Gore just mentioned there, the Postmaster General, running amok. He's not even a real Postmaster General like all these people in this godforsaken administration. He's gumming up the works for his buddy, destroying the democratic process of this country. And you want to vote for that? Oh yeah, I think we should destroy America. Yeah. And we've got an anniversary coming up, or a commemoration of it, 19 years coming up next month, of what was the most dangerous and deadly terrorist attack by an international entity on this soil. And you were all about, oh, we will never allow America to be destroyed. And now here you are 19 years later, cheering for Trump. Oh yeah, I think Trump should destroy America. Woohoo! Al Gore, who knows a thing or two about elections, has been right from the start with what he said 3.5 months ago about botched reopenings, and we've obviously seen that over the last 3.5 months, and what he said last night. There is no need for you to be terrified. The only thing you should be terrified at is if you do not vote early, or if you do not vote at all, because that would be truly terrifying. Welcome back. What I want you to understand is that you have the power. And what I want you to understand is that you are the one who has this election in your hands. Donald Trump is terrified of you. Donald Trump is afraid of you. Donald Trump would not be doing the things he is doing if he wasn't afraid of you, and if he didn't already know that he has already lost this election. There's all kinds of internal things that are done by these campaigns, research they do, the metrics they do, and they know what is what. Donald Trump knows he is not going to win this election. That is why he is confusing you. That is why he is making you anxious. That is why he's doing what he's doing with the post office in Louis DeJoy. That is why he is saying that this is a rigged election. That's why he's saying all this stuff and why he's lying. Because he wants you to be afraid. And it's obviously working with some Hollywood celebrity. I'm not going to go over that again. I'm sorry. This is just nonsense. You cannot be terrified of a poll that has no basis in anything. It doesn't mean anything. It's a national poll. You are the real poll. And what you need to do is go out there and vote now. Early voting. If you can do it in August, if that is your state provides for that, do it. If you can do it in September and the first available chance you have to early vote is September, do it. Do it on day one of that date, whatever that is. If it's early October, do it. Do it. Stop listening to these polls, as I said earlier. Stop listening to these stupid polls. You have the power. You have this inside you. You have this. You've got this. Now go to work and put it into practice, please. Tell everybody you know to vote. Heck, make t-shirts up that say vote early on them. Do it. Tell people to vote early. You have this in your hands, everybody. I just want you to know right now, as worried as you might be, as anxious as you might be, as really concerned as you might be, I want you to know you've got this.
Now, many of our Christians have what I call the goo-goo syndrome. Good government. They want everybody to vote. I don't want everybody to vote. Elections are not won by a majority of people. They never have been from the beginning of our country, and they are not now. As a matter of fact, our leverage in the elections, quite candidly, goes up as the voting populace goes down.
We got this. We really do have this. I am more confident than ever. I really am. And of course you have trepidations and fears. I think we'd be lying. I'd be lying to you if I said I wasn't nervous. Of course I'm nervous. I'm nervous about November. Of course I am. There's no question about that. But I'm very confident. I am very confident that we will get this done and that you will have Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in the White House come January the 20th, 2021. I am very confident. What I am worried about is the period of time after November the 3rd. That's what I'm concerned about. November 4th through January 20th, or up to January. That is the period of time I'm concerned about, because this guy is still going to be in power for another 10 freaking weeks. 11 weeks. 10 freaking weeks, that guy. I mean, that's where you should be concerned, if anything. But we can take care of everything up to November 3rd. And that means that we need to vote early. West Virginia, excellent website, sos.wv.gov. If you know anybody in West Virginia, please pass this information on to them. If you are a West Virginia voter, please take note of this and pass this information on to everybody you know in West Virginia. Everybody, friends, family, everybody. You want to go to sos.wv. This is really great. .wv. Let me do that again. sos.wv.gov/elections. Then you go to, once you get to there, you get to a place on that page that says Elections Division. You have 3 choices: register to vote online, Go Vote WV, and campaign finance reports. Click on Go Vote WV. That's the middle choice. That brings you to a page with the Go Vote WV logo. You will go and scroll down. You will see online voter tools and voter information. You can register to vote. Underneath where it says online voter tools, you can update your registration. You can check your voter registration record. You can check to see if you're registered still. And of course, you know what to do with that. Check your voting registration once a week, okay, please, through the end of October. You've got voter information, absentee voting, county clerk directory. In a green box, you click on the county clerk directory for the state of West Virginia. And whichever county you're in, you need to go to that clerk's office. And you'll see a whole list of names of clerks for every county in West Virginia with their phone number, their fax number, their email, their physical address, and the name of the clerk. Then you need to get in touch with that clerk to find out, if they will have early voting, what they're, everything. You can phone them. I would go there in person right now. Whatever you want to do in terms of that, you should get proactive right now in West Virginia. And your Senator Joe Manchin was on TV. The Democratic Senator of West Virginia, Joe Manchin, was furious about what's been going on in this post office. And you need to support the post office and also galvanize right now and get ready to vote and have a plan to do that right now. There's so much information that you can use on this very, very good site, the West Virginia site. On the same page where I've read to you about the online voter tools and the voter information on this Go Vote WV page, you scroll down and you see general election dates and deadlines. What a great site this is. It's all there in one place. Eligible voters in West Virginia right now can apply for a general election ballot by mail, August 11th through October the 28th. So we are now on October the 17th on this date that I'm recording this. So for the last 6+ days or so, West Virginia voters, you have been able to apply for a general election ballot by mail. If you are an eligible voter, you may apply for one. I would suggest you do that in person at your county clerk's office. That's what I would suggest. Apply for a ballot by mail in person. Give them what you know about the post office. And when that ballot is sent to you, maybe they can hand you one. I don't know if they can hand you one there and then. Probably not, but I would ask. I would be proactive. And then when October 21st comes, don't mail it in. Bring it in person with you to your early voting location at the county courthouse, annex, or designated community voting location. And that's October 21st through October 31st. That's the early voting period in West Virginia. And you can, as I said, early vote at the county courthouse, annex, or designated community voting location during normal business hours on Saturdays 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. There you go. There you go. So West Virginia, your work is cut out for you, and it's right there. What a great site you've got. Now go vote early. Thank you. My Vote Wisconsin is where you want to go, Wisconsin voter. If you would love to vote this year, this November, rather, I would say this October or this September, early voting you can find out about, if there is any, by going to myvote.wi.gov. That's where you need to go, myvote.wi.gov. That will bring you to My Vote Wisconsin. You will be able to see a really good website. My Voter Info, you can go register to vote. You can click on that to register to vote if you're a first-time registrant, first-time voter. If you want to check out your registration status, go to My Voter Info. You can click on that. There is other great things you can do on the website. There's where do I vote? If you scroll down, what's on my ballot? Vote absentee. Become a poll worker. Young people, that's you. Please become a poll worker, particularly now. Everything is on this website. Photo ID requirements, what you need. There's a website that's in Spanish as well as English. Your local board of elections information. You can find out about the phone numbers to go to, the email addresses. It's all there. It's just a great website. Locally, you can call up Wisconsin and their State of Wisconsin Elections Commission at 608-266-8005. That's 608-266-8005. Toll free at 866-VOTE WIS. 866-VOTE WIS. So, My Vote Wisconsin is a dream website. It really is. It gives you everything there. Everything there. Vote absentee, military and overseas voters. If you've got any questions, as I said, about early voting, if there's any there, or registration deadlines, you will want to call those phone numbers that I just gave you. And you can also get more information about getting answers to those questions by going to another website that's also run officially through the Wisconsin Elections Commission, and that is elections.wi.gov/voters. On that site, you will see a slew of questions. It's just really good stuff. Photo ID stuff, and on the left-hand side, if you scroll down, you'll see upcoming elections. Click on that. The general election for November 3rd. It says more information available here. You click on that, and it's just great. I mean, you then see all this other stuff that's going on, the PDFs. This is really good. So again, you can call phone numbers for this. If you've got any questions at all, 608-266-8005. That's the Wisconsin Elections Commission. That's the same thing as the Secretary of State, pretty much. Or at least, put it this way, in the context of voting, you want to call this Elections Commission. They are official. This is the official state place that you need to go to in Wisconsin. They are located in Madison, Wisconsin as well. And that number again, 608-266-8005. The toll-free voter helpline in Wisconsin, 866-VOTEWIS. Omar Moore here, and I want to say thank you very much for listening to the Politicrat podcast. Every day, a brand new podcast episode. Thank you for your support. Thank you very much. Please spread the word about this podcast and subscribe to it. And you can follow me on Twitter at the Popcorn REEL. On Twitter, that's the Popcorn REEL. Thank you so much, and I really appreciate you listening. Welcome back. And Wyoming, the final of the 50 states. In just 3 weeks, I've gone through all 50 states. This is the 50th one. D.C. will be coming up in short order, the District of Columbia. But I will tell you, my goodness me, this is it. It's amazing. We went through this in 3 weeks. And this is for Wyoming, last but not least. And there are 2 websites for this as well, depending on which one you find easier. They're both run by the official state board of elections, the Secretary of State in Wyoming. So do not be worried about that. They're both official sites. The first one is letsvotewyo.org. It's lets, LETSVOTEWYO.org. You get to that and you will notice that tomorrow, August 18th, is the Wyoming primary election. You will see that. So that is something to take note of if you are voting in that primary. It's quite a colorful website, large print. It talks about voting safety measures on the site, sanitation, social distancing coverings, all these kinds of things. The Wyoming site is one of the few sites that really goes very clearly, explicitly into all of those things. I mean, the other sites do, but it's really large print. You can't miss it. And a big illustration of a face mask. They want you to register. They want you to vote safely. Voter registration form, you can slide down. It says voter registration information. If you want to click on a voter registration form to fill that out, you can do that and fill it out and bring it back to one of the clerk's offices, county clerk. And you can find contact information for your county clerk as you keep scrolling down to the bottom of the page. And it says on the left, find contact information for your county clerk by clicking below. You click on that and voila, a PDF comes up with all the county clerk not names of the people, but certainly their addresses, their phone numbers, and their email addresses. So these county clerk's offices, these are the places where you want to go. If you want to update your voter registration, if you want to make requests for absentee ballots, you want to be calling, whoever your county, if you're Albany County, Bighorn, or Campbell, or Carbon County, or whichever county you are in Wyoming, you need to look up that information, and you either go there directly, which I would recommend, or call them or email them. I'd actually call them or go directly to their building, to the clerk's office, and make the request in person. Absentee request or update your voter registration. You can do that. And you can learn more about absentee ballot voting as well. And there's a whole section, if you click on absentee voting in Wyoming, it gives you all this information. It's very useful. And there are websites for each county as well, by the way. At the very bottom, where it says absentee voting in Wyoming, your vote matters. If you go to the very bottom of that page, it says return to your county website, and all the county websites come up. You can click on any one of them, and this is just really good. I mean, this is really good. So it's just great. And there is early voting, by the way. Let me just say that in Wyoming, certainly in this county that I'm looking at, I've just clicked on the Laramie County Clerk's website. And what it says there is that there is early voting, absentee early voting for the general election. Starts next month. Now that may be for the entire state, or it may be for the county itself only. But in any event, it says September the 18th. That's exactly a month from tomorrow. If the primary election in Wyoming is tomorrow, and it is August 18th, then exactly a month after that, September 18th, you can start to vote for the general election. Early vote. In person. Absentee. Early vote. Wyoming. September the 18th. You know you can't wait. September the 18th can't come quick enough. Minnesota also is an early voting state that starts its early voting on September 18th. So the first day, when that Friday, September 18th comes along, make sure you go and vote in person or send the mail out. I'd drop off the ballot. Drop off the ballot at your local precinct or at, if wherever your early voting site is in your area. Drop it off there or at the local county clerk's office. You can call them and ask them where that early voting site is for you. Don't wait until September 18th to call them and ask them that question. It's August the 17th now. Call them now. And that information is all on the Wyoming website. You can call them now and ask them, for early voting next month for the general election, where are the early voting sites? Or you can go to the county clerk's office and ask them. Ask them. Get proactive. Don't wait until September 18th to then, where am I going? You should have the information now. So you can then tell your friends and family, and then they can tell people, and then they can get people out to vote. So that on September 18th, you can have a lot of people turning out. This is what we mean by getting high voter turnout. So that's Wyoming. Wow, it's great. That's the absentee early voting starts for the general election on September the 18th in Wyoming. Wow. And no reason to think that that's only confined to Laramie County. It's got to be every county. And you can call up the Wyoming phone number, or you can contact them. It's all there, folks. It's all there. That concludes the 50 states. D.C., District of Columbia, is next. Welcome back. And thank you for sticking with me here in this on this edition, on this Monday. The Board of Elections of the District of Columbia is the next place, and the final, really, place that I'm going to be talking about. I may well be doing some things on the U.S. territories like the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico. I think I will do that coming up in the next day or two, possibly, because I do think we need to just do this with every particular state or territory, as well as the District of Columbia, which I'm about to do. So you want to go to D.C. If you are in Washington, D.C., if you are in the District of Columbia, dcboe.org. That is the District of Columbia Board of Elections. That's dcboe.org. And when you click on, when you go to that web page, you will see that it says you do not have to request an absentee ballot. All active voters will receive a mail-in ballot at their registered address. And then it says below that, click here to confirm your registration status. It's a blue box. You click on that to confirm, to check to see if you are registered to vote. As I say, you want to keep checking that every week. You enter your information and go from there. So that's what you can do to check your voter registration. Then there is on that page candidate ballot access info. And then there is, you scroll down to the bottom, and then you will see what's called, click here to go to DCBOE homepage. So actually there's another homepage. You go to that, and then that brings you to the homepage that says Vote Safe DC. Register to vote, where to vote, what every voter should know, and vote absentee. I told you where you can click to register to vote. I would click on what every voter should know. I think that's an important section. You click on that, you'll find a lot of good stuff there that's very important to you. Very important to you. I would say, again, even though that DC is going to mail out these ballots and you don't have to request them, I would say that you should go to call your DC Board of Elections office at 202-727-2525 or toll free at 866-DC-VOTES and say to them, I would like to have my ballot early. Can I have my ballot early, please? I want a ballot early. I don't want to wait for it to be mailed. Can I pick one up? I would like to pick one up from you. Or I would go in person, and there's an address for them too that you can see at the bottom of the web page homepage. And you can go to them in person and ask them, can I have my ballot, please? I'm registered to vote. You show proof of all of that. And or apply, and then say, can I have my ballot right now? If they give it to you, great, then you know what to do. Fill it out and return it straight to them. By hand delivery. I would do it by hand delivery. I wouldn't, the mail, again, we know about what's going on with what they're doing to the mail. And I know Louis DeJoy is going to now testify before the House next week. But again, the damage has been done here with the slowing down of the mail. People have been saying a week. I've said a week. Some have said 3 weeks. And that means you cannot afford to play around with this. The Postal Service is a great place. It's what Postmaster Louis DeJoy is doing to it that is not great at all. It's absolute sabotage and illegal. It's a federal crime. It's a felony. He should be behind bars for this. He should be impeached. So when he sits in front of the House next week and testifies, he really should be testifying in an impeachment hearing, quite frankly. But anyway, the DC BOE, good website. You can find out how to get involved. There's all kinds of events. The deadline to register to vote online or by mail is October the 13th. Do not wait until then. I would be registering to vote now. You can vote absentee. Again, you can get an absentee ballot. You're going to get one automatically, but you can say, hey, look, you know what? I would like mine now. Can I get one now? And just start the ball rolling. So there you go. There's all kinds of other stuff. Community outreach, what the ballot looks like. This is really good. Voters, register to vote, check your registration status, mail ballot drop-off sites. So you can actually drop your ballot off as well. And there are all of these sites that you can drop. There's drop boxes where you can drop them off. Or ballot drop sites, actual places where you can drop off your ballot. And there's Ward 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And there are all these addresses for where you can drop off your ballot, your mail-in ballot. There's vote centers. You click on that. Early voting, October the 27th through November the 2nd, it looks like here. Vote centers will be open from then to, I'm assuming that means that is the earliest date to early vote, is October 27th in the DC area, in District of Columbia. From 8:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. That's Eastern time, of course. And on November 3rd, vote centers are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So there you go. And that's all on the official site. For early voting, you can start early voting in Washington, D.C. on October the 27th for the November 3rd general election. And for more details on that and to get more, you know what to do. Call the phone number that I gave you earlier, 202-727-2525, or toll free 866 DC votes. And that concludes the voting portion of this particular program. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to come back with a few moments to talk about the DNC platform. Next. Welcome back. Tonight is night one of what will be an historic convention. Never before in the history of the United States has there been a virtual convention. And because of this pandemic, we now have that. We are going to be having a virtual convention. It's going to be held in all different parts of the country, maybe even the world. People will be speaking live from remote areas. There are going to be some, I'm sure, pre-recorded bits, and there always are at conventions. What part of a convention isn't pre-recorded? Obviously, you're going to see some video that has been done in advance, and you're going to see some live speeches. Of course, you're not going to have an audience unless there's an audience, a skeletal audience somewhere, but you're really not going to have any audience here. And this is where the Democrats are going to have to put the pedal on the metal and push their agenda. This is the chance. You've got 4 days to do it. The first of those 4 days begins tonight. The speakers, among others, John Kasich, the Republican of all people, he will be throwing a hand to Joe Biden and endorsing him and voting for him. It's not often that you get Republicans talking at Democratic conventions. It does happen, though. It does happen. Michael Bloomberg did it 4 years ago, although he was technically an independent at the time, I think. Now he's a Democrat, he's been all three. He's been Republican, Independent, and Democrat, just like Charlie Crist has in Florida. But the point is that there are time to time you do have people talking at the convention, and they are the opposing party. Joe Lieberman talked at the Republican convention in 2008 for John McCain, his buddy. Joe Lieberman, of course, was a Democrat, is no longer in politics. And, of course, Joe Lieberman ran with Al Gore as Al Gore's running mate in 2000. And just 8 years later, there he is on the Republican National Convention stage. And John McCain, by the way, wanted Joe Lieberman to be his running mate, and the Republican bosses said, we're not having this. And then they picked his boss for him. Well, Nicole Wallace, who is, of course, on MSNBC these days, picked his running mate for him, Sarah Palin. And the rest was history. You can watch the Democratic convention tonight if you so choose. This is going to be a very interesting 4 days because you just want to see how this is going to look. And thank goodness for Kamala Harris, the senator out of California, because she is going to energize things, as are some of these speakers. Bernie Sanders will speak tonight. Senator Sanders, who really has done a lot to push the Democratic Party more toward the left in the progressive direction. And also First Lady Michelle Obama, who will also keynote tonight, and she will close out the night. So that should be good to look forward to, and I hope that people watch, whether you are a Republican or a Democrat or of no party. I think you should watch both of these conventions, this week's and next week's Republican convention, because I will definitely be doing that. I'll be covering the highlights or maybe not so highlights of both of these conventions. And by the way, if you don't have access to a television set but do have access to the internet, then of course you can go online to Dem Convention, DEM as in Mike, Convention, convention.com/watch. That's /WATCH. And you can watch it live there. They will have it on streaming live on the webpage, on the website, right at that address. So that's that. As for the platform, I told you about all the speakers yesterday, principally. The platform, of course. Now, the platform is interesting because it's not finalized yet. At least it hasn't been, as far as I know. And this platform is very important because this is really what the Democratic Party will stand for. You know, this is what they will stand for. This is what their values are going to be. And this is the kind of thing, right, that voters will pay attention to. Progressive voters as well. I know some of the progressive voters are dissatisfied, obviously, and I have a little dissatisfaction as well. Look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I don't. But the fact of the matter is that Bernie did not get the nomination. And I mean, we know, we can talk about how much he was stiffed, how much he was screwed, how much the media, we can go through all of that. But where does it get us if it will not change a darn thing? Because Joe Biden is the nominee. He's going to formally accept on Thursday. I think the roll call is either tonight or tomorrow night, where they formally do the roll call remotely. So, I mean, yeah, I get it. Remember, we've got to keep pushing Joe Biden. But vote strategically to vote for him. I mean, we can do two things at once, right? We can say that we have some issues with Joe Biden, and here's what we want you to do to push this to a progressive agenda. This is what we're looking for. And we can still vote for him on election night, which we will be doing, right? And then once he's in, then we keep pushing him. That's what you do in politics. Politics is never a straight line. It's crooked as you know what. So don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good here. We can be strategic, right? We don't have to choose one or the other. I know there's going to be that small percentage, Bernie or bust. I saw a couple of these idiots still lurking around the internet, probably Putin trolls or paid trolls or whatever. There's still a couple of them around, but they've largely gone because people know that the stakes are too damn high, right? And if you see any of these people, these Bernie bros, or these stupid terms that are invented by right-wingers, quite frankly, or any of these people that say Bernie or bust, block them. They're trolls, okay? Probably Trump trolls or Putin trolls. They're trolls. And we don't need anybody here talking nonsense. When you've got someone who's destroying the country around you, destroying any notion of a country, fourth world country, and you got some idiot going, oh, Bernie or bust. Shut up. The Democratic Party platform. This is a rough draft of it. It's around 80 pages long or so. And some of the topics, I'm just going to read them without going into detail. Protecting Americans and recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic. That's 4 or 5 pages long. Building a stronger, fairer economy. Protecting workers and families and creating millions of jobs across America. That's just one of the subtitles, subheadings. Achieving universal, affordable, quality health care. Now, nowhere in there really, at least as I can see, is Medicare for all. But this is what Joe Biden's people and Bernie Sanders' people have come up with together. This reflects the synthesis of the two of them. Healing the soul of America, that's a topic on there. Protecting communities and building trust by reforming our criminal justice system. Combating the climate change crisis and pursuing environmental justice. The Sunrise Movement will be happy with that because the Sunrise Movement actually has expressed some very kind words about Kamala Harris and also, quite frankly, Joe Biden after they began to push him. The Joe Biden's listening to the Sunrise Movement, the progressive organization that's combating climate change. So he can be listened to, and he can listen, and he can be pushed. Creating 21st century immigration, restoring and strengthening our democracy, which is protecting and enforcing voting rights, etc., etc. Reforming the broken campaign finance system, providing a world-class education in every zip code. I mean, it goes on and on. Renewing American leadership and foreign policy. So that's really in a nutshell. Now, that's a draft copy that you can find at demconvention.com/WP-content. And then it goes on from there, /uploads 2020 /07 /2020 -07 -21 -draft -demo. I think that's it. But anyway, you can find that. I'm sure you can search it and find it because that's what I did. I searched it. You can just search for that 2020 Democratic Party platform draft. Dem convention. So it's there. And that's the draft. So I don't know if that's final, but it's probably pretty close to final. And they should probably be officially releasing that tonight or sometime soon. You can find it, I'm sure. Thank you so very much. Watch the convention tonight, night 1 of the Democratic National Convention. It's going to be quite a convention with this coronavirus and no audience. It's going to be like what these athletes are doing, playing without crowds. We'll see what happens tonight, night number 1. And of course, I'll be talking about it and a lot more tomorrow. Thank you so very much for listening to this edition of The Politicrat. I am Omar Moore.